Hello guys, Saffron City here, and welcome back to Let's Play Pokemon Legends. After a fairly brief, or possibly a fairly long hiatus, depending on your perception of time, depending on how you look at things. A few months at the very least, anyway. But back to business as usual, it seems. Starting on Route 13 with a more than is the norm number of Pokemon, from the looks of it. Starting with Skiploom, which I somehow missed to begin with. I have no idea how I actually managed to miss this thing, because it actually turned up constantly when I was actually revisiting this area. Unless it was just something I saw over and over and just didn't catch when I was actually in the area to begin with, which is possible. I mean, if I remember right, there's a fairly long distance between Lavender and Saffron, and I'm on the sort of home stretch of that now, so I'd imagine I was getting pretty fed up at this point, just wanting to get to some town or other. But yeah, anyway, Skiploom is now ours, after a long evasion of my Pokeballs, and accidentally going into the nicknaming screen, of course, which is always a bit annoying, so just call it its title, as is the norm of Pokemon. It'll only cause confusion if I ever evolve it, so that's fine. I probably won't. Immediately evolves it after saying that. And on to Yanma, which is another one that I'm not terribly surprised I missed, to be honest. Yanmas are notoriously annoying to catch and find. Less so in this, I have to admit. No, it wasn't too bad in here. Came across a few of them. But with speed up, a lot of rare things seem not so bad, truth be told. So switching out for Hypnosis, which surprises me a little bit because I wouldn't have thought I would have done that for this, but I may have found loads off screen and it kept getting away, so I don't know. I can't recall what happens out of editing, unfortunately. Speaking of editing, you may notice the fact that I've already actually caught this Yanma, judging by the little Pokeball at the top left. I'm pointing at the screen, I don't know why, it's not like you can see. Basically, I did actually catch a load of these Pokemon, well, I actually caught all the Pokemon in this area, and the next, I think, beforehand, on screen, actually, and then immediately deleted the video file. Genius. So, got stuck with having to do it twice. Fun times indeed. So this will actually be the second Yanma and the second Skiploom I've got, and the second of a few Pokemon to come. You'll know when I've gone back up to date, because the Pokeballs will disappear in the top left corner. So yeah, not fun times. Part of the reason why this took so long to get to, because I was just like, oh no, can't face doing it again. Not yet anyway, even though it was just 2 routes, so I shouldn't moan too much. Nidorino, another one that I'm fairly sure I encountered loads of wandering around this area before and just didn't catch. So yeah, making up for lost time by catching it now, of course. I think my Great Ball number just increased drastically from the Yanma fight. I'm not sure if that's just me not paying enough attention, or if I'm doing a lot of off-screening. I have no idea. Off-screening in this area has become a nightmare now that I'm running out of Pokebucks. Having to keep running back to the Pokemon League and sort of speedrunning them to get the money to buy Pokeballs, etc, etc. Nidorina is also here. Never found one of these before. It most certainly wasn't in my list, and as you'll notice by lack of Pokeball sign in the top left corner, almost missed it when actually doing this the first time round. I would never have thought to come back for a Nidorina. I'm fairly sure I had a Nidoran female somewhere, so I probably would have just thought you were meant to evolve that. So yeah, this was a bit of a surprising find, and mainly because I wasn't expecting to find a 7th Pokemon in the area, I think, sort of encouraged my decision to move on without finding it. But yeah, because I mean, Heracross was pretty hard to find in itself, and oh my gosh, Heracross does not like to stay and fight. this was probably about the 5th or 6th one I've encountered in this recording, not counting the ones I found originally, because this is of course the second Heracross technically. Heracross does not like to hang around and fight, he likes to flee, lots, like pretty much instantly, making major pain, but I clearly didn't want to put him to sleep that time, and it worked. I guess I got lucky. Luckily its catch rate isn't terrible, so it sort of balances out. It's another Abra situation, but nowhere near as bad as that. Then we sort of spaz out on the water a bit with a few transitions that don't lead to anywhere because awkward editing, unfortunately. Not really sure how to symbolise the fact that I looked and didn't find anything, because we already had it all, clearly. With fishing and surfing you do find an awful lot of duplicates, which is fair enough, because you're kind of limited to the one type. But not here. Here we find a couple of interesting things. Route 14 is sort of the saviour of the fishing areas. We find a Staryu, a level 40 Staryu. Fairly sure this could only be found by the Super Rod, which is weird for such a low level Pokemon. I mean, it evolves way before 40, naturally, so there you go. But, yeah, still an interesting find. I like Staryu. Clearly resorting to Hypnosis, probably because of its level, I gather I did that. And it throws out a Minimise and turns into... Actually, that does still look like a bit of a star shape, so I will let it off. It's not like Grimer where it suddenly turns a bit humanoid when it minimises. This one can actually pull off a Minimise, logically. Hooray. So, will it be caught in this one? Hopefully... Indeed, it did. Hooray for that. And then... Pokédex stuff, and I actually didn't go into the nickname screen for once. Hooray. But wait, there's more. Wait for it, and we will find a Kingler. Which isn't strictly speaking necessary, because Crabbies are all over the place and they're not particularly hard to evolve, if I remember right. I don't think it's a high level evolution, but still, it's always nice to catch things and save yourself the level grinding, because there's no shortage of that anyway, at the best of times. So yeah, Kingler available here, and I believe it starts turning up quite a lot from this point on. I don't know if this is like the halfway point. I sort of lose my bearings. I know it's not... Bearing in mind Kanto is considerably shorter. Oh wait, no, this is Kanto technically. Johto is considerably shorter than it normally is in this hack. I have no idea where the sort of standard halfway point would be now. But probably around about here. Maybe a little bit further on. So resorting to Hypnosis. Again, Kingler is only a Super Rod find, but that's a bit less surprising considering it's, top evolution and all that. I feel like Kingler could benefit from a third evolution in its line. A few other Pokemon got them later on. Don't know why Kingler can't. I mean, it looks like it's sort of, potentially going to get a bit more armoured and a bit more epic, but I don't know, it seems doubtful now considering we're going into sort of brand new independent Pokemon territory. Or rather, we've already gone into that territory. It has become very difficult to complete a Pokédex. But yeah, so moving on to Route 15 after a awkward transition. And we're back into standard 6 Pokemon areas now, thank goodness, including a Voltorb, which I think I probably found originally when I first wandered around in this bit of grass, considering it's, you know, it's another thing that turns up constantly, like the Skip Plume. But can't say for certain. Either way, it goes down without too much of a fight, or rather, it gets caught without too much of a fight. Like that, and then we can move on and forget about Voltorb's existence unless we want an Electrode. Although we might have one. Not sure if we caught one from the mahogany stuff, rocket base thingamajig. And brief hiatus for a extra long phone call from Call Trainer Beth, looking to get some screen time. Talking about a Drowsy, or rather the fight of a Drowsy. I'm not even watching, to be honest. No one pays attention unless it's a rematch. And we also find Girafarig, which again I'm fairly sure I saw before. I sort of associate this area with Girafarig offhand, so I would imagine I knew it was here offhand, so fairly sure I saw this one. And again, it goes down without too much of a struggle, fortunately. Just like that. And then we can move on to the slightly more interesting one. Oh wait, no. No, we already have the interesting one. Mr. Mime is there as well. It's also super rare, much like it was outside Cerulean, whatever route that was. So, we get the slightly interesting screen time for Natu. Although I do like Natu. I've never used one, but it's always been a fairly appealing Pokemon. Interesting double typage. Natu's always been a bit of a fearsome opponent. But it's also very unresistant and goes down in one Pokeball. Hooray! And that is it for Route 15, sorry, gosh. The routes are flying by. And so we move on, we talk to that woman again in hopes that she'll move out of the way, but alas, no luck. There will be no moving for this woman. We'll never know what's in that cave. Don't think we will anyway. I do wonder though. But moving on to Saffron, and a brief fishing spot, which again gives nothing new. I think there's another awkward transition, but to no end, basically. Battle and not quite, no. Let me just move on. There is Kingway here though. As I said before, it just starts turning up a lot from this point on. Still with Super Rod, mind you. And then random slowness. I'm pretty sure that's the recording and not me. Not sure why that happened. But onto a very pointless Route 16, which I think conjoined to one of the earlier routes. Just kind of. I'm not sure how. But Route 16 turned up much earlier. I think it's where you get Poliwag. It's like just outside of Celadon. And it makes a pointless return there for no reason at all to get onto Route 17, which has Skarmory, I announce like 30 seconds after it appears. Another Pokemon that I've really wanted to use. A lot of bird types that do have awesome double types, but alas, Skarmory is never very available. It's just a bit too epic to turn up very early, I guess. Like, if this turned up on the first route, you'd have high expectations of what was to come, basically, wouldn't you? But there you go. So it'd be a case of importing one, and that's always awkward as well. Anyway, it doesn't like to stay in Pokeballs. or rather it wanted to be hypnotised first, I guess, which is fair enough. Also, I made a bit of a blunder at the start of the fight and used wing attack instead of force fight, but it still did pretty much the same damage, which is amazing. So, didn't really make a difference. So, yeah, and then Skarmory hopefully goes into the... Nope, not quite. But the second ball, hopefully. See how this goes. And yes, the silent build-up helped, I dare say, even though it was already recorded, so I knew. And moving on to the last Pokemon to find in this area, which is... Wait for it. After much awkward maneuvering, it is Ladybird. A rather disappointment. It's a shame I couldn't make Skarmory the last one. I probably should have switched it up and just kept quiet about it, but nope, the logical chain of events was Skarmory first and Ladybird, unfortunately, even though, well, actually Ladybird's pretty hard to come by. This was the only one I ever found anyway. It took a while to find. It is pretty unapt that Ladybird turns up a lot less than Skarmory, but there you go. I mean, you know, obviously a Skarmory would be much more visible, I guess, when you look at it practically, but anyway, reading too deep into this. So, after a bit of wandering around... and a bit of attempted fishing that I will prove doesn't go the way I want it to. Fairly sure there's no fishing availability here at all. I did try a few times, and nothing, unless I just got very unlucky. But I don't think so. And then I give up and move on. And then after... Oh, and of course you can't surf here either, because of the bicycle thing. I guess they can't do a transition from surf to bicycle immediately. Although I don't see why not, because I can do immediate transition to bicycle from building in some cycling roads. But anyway, so drawing to a close now as we approach the end of the route. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you hopefully after not too long for the next part. Thank you very much. Bye!